Venaani condemned the way migrants are being treated in Libya and urged African governments to accelerate their socio-economic growth in their countries to prevent their people from migrating to other countries to seek greener pastures.
It is an African problem. It is a problem of underdevelopment, of unemployment, of poverty that many Africans are ending up in Libya. But I think one issue needs to be discussed without being very controversial, and that is the issue of the Arab-Sub-Saharan relationship. It needs to be under discussion, because how Arabs view Africans sometimes borders to apartheid and the superiority of tribes, and Arabs sees themselves more superior to black Africans, if I have to put it that way. And I think it's an issue that needs discussions at the African Union, because some Arab countries behave in unbecoming manners, and that is the fact that when it suits them, they are part of the Arab League. When it suits them, they are part of the African Union. And I think that Africa should embrace itself with its diversity. And the Africans, the slave trade in Libya has only just reared its ugly face to start making people think about behavior of certain Arab countries and certain Arab people around the African continent. I think we need to really rise above the divisions of ethnicity, the divisions of race, and really carry the spirit as envisaged by our founders of the African Organization of African Unity and ultimately the African Union, that our diversity should be cherished. And what is happening in Libya receives our strongest condemnation.
Venaani also touched on the recent transition of leadership that took place in Zimbabwe, saying that the Southern African Development Community, SADC, has failed the people of Zimbabwe by supporting the country's ex-president Robert Mugabe's regime for far too long.
While knowing that Mugabe was suppressing human rights, civil liberties were not enjoyed in that country, opposition leaders were beaten, were hanged, maimed, and killed. Journalists were imprisoned, but SADC played a crocodile attitude of just see and do nothing. And I think when the history of Zimbabwe is written in the annals of their history, SADC will come out as a failed instrument when it comes to the people of Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans today have proliferated all the SADC region, especially South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, in seeking for better refuge and better economic conditions elsewhere on the SADC region, while the leadership of SADC was buttressing Mugabe. And Dr. Hage Geingob is one of them that was saying Mugabe is his hero and this and that. But Mugabe has gone from being hero to a villain. The way that the people of Zimbabwe themselves have celebrated his departure tells you that the man who was a liberator turned to become a villain and the oppressor of his own people. And I think SADC has failed the people of Zimbabwe.
Venaani hopes it is the last time that SADC displays such an attitude towards the suffering of its people and supporting a regime that's oppressing its people. Meanwhile, Popular Democratic Movement PDM President McHenry Venaani touched on the issue of dissemination and availability of information. He said the Namibian government lacks transparency when it comes to sharing information with the public, which makes its accountability questionable.
Government offices are very mum on information, and I think it was also released in a report of the NGOs that says that from the research that they have put, and IPPR was saying from the research that they have put, only 10% of government offices really replied to information sought from them. So in terms of the governance structure of the country, that more needs to be done to bring accountability of the government system.
Other issues touched on by the PDM president were government's refusal to downsize its civil service despite numerous warnings from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank.